I've actually mentioned this before, but yeah, sometimes when I write in Malaysia Today, people don't read. In fact, I have received feedback from some people who say that they just read the title, read a few paragraphs, and then they just don't want to read anymore, and so on. So my articles are pretty long. It runs into 3-4 pages, and I do explain quite a bit in those articles, what I'm driving at, what's my objective, and stuff like that. Now, I think if you remember back in 2010, that was 2 years ago, Anwar gave a talk. It was a Q&A in Australia, and he admitted, in fact, you can see this video on the internet, is on YouTube, yeah? Anwar admitted that Raja Petra sits in London and tries to tell us what to do, but we cannot agree to everything. Maybe some things we can agree, but he can't sit there and try to tell us what we should do and how to run the state. Now, in a way, Anwar has admitted that I have, in fact, raised these issues with him before. And I did. I, in fact, raised it with him in private meetings. I've raised it with him during meetings that we had, the whole committee, the Friends of Pakatan Rakyat UK committee that we had with him. I think at least a dozen or so people. And it was also during one forum that we had in one of the London universities, where Anwar and I both shared the same stage, where I raised this issue about, for example, the People's Declaration. And this was attended by maybe about 400-500 people. And I said, look, in 2008, in the run-up to the elections, the last general elections, we entered into a social contract. And our social contract is stronger than Mahathir's social contract. If you remember, Dr. Mahathir once said that we have a social contract, but it's a verbal contract. It's not a written contract. Now, ours is stronger than that. Ours was a written contract. And in fact, it was during a ceremony in the run-up to the elections, where 6 political parties, 3 of them in Pakatan Rakyat, signed an agreement with what we call then the civil society movements and bloggers. It was a loose coalition. It was not formalized in any way. So we just call it the civil society movements and bloggers. And this social contract that we signed was that Pakatan would implement the People's Declaration if it ever came to power. Now in London, I told Anwar, it's been 2 years since Pakatan has been in power at that time. And still, we are not seeing much implementation on what was agreed. And during another meeting I had with Anwar over breakfast, I told him, I said, look, this People's Declaration was an agreement. It was something we agreed before the elections. And you said that if you ever win, either federal or the states, that this is going to be implemented. And Anwar's response was what? He told me, he says, Pat, Khaled, meaning the Menteri Besar Selangor, he's very stubborn. He won't listen. He's got an ego. It's not easy to get him to do things. I said, yeah, Datuk Sri, but you appointed him as MB. So he's your responsibility. If he is out of line, if you can't control him, if he refuses to do what the state or what the government wants him to do, then remove him. Replace him with a new MB. You can't come and give us an excuse that I can't control my MB, he won't listen to me, he's got an ego, he's stubborn and all that, and offer that as an excuse why things can't be done. Now, a couple of months later, he went to Australia and he complained. He said that Petra sits in London and tried to tell us what to do. We can't listen to everything that he wants. Now, what's he trying to say? When he meets me in London, he says, I can't control Khaled. I want to do it but I can't because Khalid is stubborn, Khalid's got ego. When he goes to Australia, he says something else. He says that he can't tell us what to do. We can't listen to everything that he wants. So there appears to be a contradiction in what he is saying. As far as the failure of Pakatan to implement not only the spirit but the letter of the People's Declaration. And this was an agreement. So I'm going back to what was agreed. People say, why do I talk to the mainstream media? Why don't I talk direct to the party or direct to the opposition leaders? What, you think we didn't? You think we didn't try? We did. And we can't get their attention. However, when I go to the mainstream media, it gets attention. Of course, the attention is very negative. They say things like he's trying to undermine Pakatan. He's trying to deny Pakatan chances of forming the next government. It's not up to me. I'm merely one person, one vote, and I can't even go back to Malaysia to vote for that matter, unless I want to be picked up and sent to Kemunting. But there's what? 15 million, 16 million eligible voters, Malaysians who can vote. And what's going to happen? Probably we're going to get only, 50% of those 16 million coming out to vote. We're not going to see more than 10 million people voting. 6 million people are not going to vote. And out of that 10 million who vote, half will be voting for the opposition, the other half for Barisan Nasional. Now, how do we convince these people that Barisan Nasional needs to be kicked out, that Pakatan needs to be given a chance to run the country, when we can't even impress them that they are able to run the state? So it's very important that Pakatan realizes that the voters are no longer just going to vote Abu. And this we made it very clear to Anwar during the meeting. And it was not a private meeting. It was a meeting of the entire committee, Friends of Pakatan, about a dozen of us. And we told Anwar that in the last election, 2008, it was Abu. In fact, Abu is not new. It was something that was already coined during the 2008 elections. Hishammuddin Rais came out with Asalkan Bukan UMNO. And we came out with anything but UMNO, which is still Abu. And we told Anwar that this next election, don't expect people to vote Abu. They're not going to vote anything but UMNO just to kick UMNO out. You can't tell the people, never mind if it's a donkey or a monkey, as long as not UMNO, we vote for you. Anwar agreed. Anwar said, yes, we realize. We realize that the quality of the voters is going to be very important. And this time around, the people are not going to vote Pakatan just because they hate UMNO. They're going to vote Pakatan only if we can offer them quality candidates. And the voters are going to gauge, going to assess our performance over these last few years since the last election to see whether we're capable of running the government. This came from Anwar's own mouth. These were his words. This is what he said. And we asked him, why then can't you get quality candidates? He says, look, it's not easy to get quality candidates. We try to persuade people to stand for elections, and they don't want. And these are quality candidates, but they refuse to be in politics. Then we said, okay, let us try then. Let us try to approach these people who you have already approached and who have refused to stand for elections. Let us try to convince them now to stand for elections. And they can stand on any party platform that you want. You decide. You want them to stand on PKR, PAS, DAP. It's your call.